Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton. Sitting across from me, smiling, grinning ear to ear, is the fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How you doing, Gray?
Hola.
Gray goes south of the border. He is now the guy at Mexican restaurants who says gracias and de nada and hola, and that's the only three words he knows. How you doing, Gray? How was the trip?
Perdona me. Perdona me, Senor Bidon. Me gusta Mexico City. Grande. I took 13 years of Spanish. just so everyone knows, I'm not Miss El Facil Espanol. I am proficiente.
So 13 years. So you still had no idea what you were doing when you went down there, right?
13 years, man. Oh man, you never. I could. I'm sure I told the story before on the podcast about my 13 years of Spanish, so I won't. Say it again. People could read it in Who is Gray Albright. Go to the shop on razzball.com and you can buy it. Anyway, I went to Mexico City, man. You know what's funny? I actually went to. We had plans to go to Mexico City for like the last, I don't know, like year, because Cougs' cousin was getting married. And I didn't realize until like 3 days ago that MLB was even going to be there. I had no clue. On like Wednesday of like last week, I saw someone mention that the Padres and the Giants are going to be playing in Mexico City, and I was like, wait, really? this coming weekend? Because that's like when I'm going to be there. Honestly, I wish I had known. I would have tried to plan like to go to a game, but it probably wasn't going to happen anyway because I was at the wedding Saturday night, and then I flew out Sunday morning. So I wasn't really I wasn't really there for the game, unfortunately. But I would go back, and I don't know, man. I had a good time. I was really surprised at how fun it was. It was a good city, and I was really like, I'm convinced that like MLB, I think Mexico City would be like the number one place if I were running MLB, which unfortunately I'm not. As you, unfortunately, I would also have the pitch clock be like 3 seconds just to see what would happen. But no, honestly, I think Mexico City, like they're down there, they love baseball like how I remember growing up how people in the States used to love baseball and no longer love baseball. Like, let's be
How
honest.
people in the States now like soccer.
No, like baseball is like, trailing NBA and NFL. But like 40 years ago, it was like baseball was the top game in town with NL with I think NFL was probably second, and then NBA was probably third. But down in Mexico City, they love baseball like before. Like before the labor disputes of like the 80s and 90s, and like before Peds, and like before NFL and NBA stole away all their viewership, like MLB is really like huge down there. It was fun to see, like everywhere I went, like people were really into baseball, which is cool. It's a big city too, so there's a lot of like like if MLB could expand down there, they would if they could have that market. I mean, honestly, it feels like a no-brainer. I know it's like not really my call. not really. They're not really turning to me for this decision. But yeah, I mean, it's a total no-brainer in my mind. Hey, don't take that out of context. Me saying there's a no-brainer in my mind. Anyway, it was a good time, and it would also be fun just to see the offense that teams would put up if they had an expansion team down there. It would be like all quad A players because like expansion teams, they don't have any real players like when they first start. So it'd be like, like the Jeff Conines of the world would be like 45 home run hitters in Mexico City. It would be really cool. Anyway, that's that was my weekend.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. I mean, I do think like baseball needs to get down there. If assuming it has the market that you saw, like they need to get down there fast because NFL's talking about it already. Like NFL wants to get a team in Mexico. They need to beat the NFL down there and capture the market before the NFL gets down there and does what they did in every other U.S. city and just take over because
Yeah.
like you
No,
need to get the
completely.
hearts and
No,
minds
I
first.
honestly, I when we were down there, Cougs was like, I think she had like just read like the Wikipedia page for Mexico City or something because she was like telling me that she kept, and now
Rattling off exports and
and now
imports.
and now I can't remember what she was saying. But she was saying something like it was the #2 city population wise in the world. Like it's a huge city. Like I mean, we were there for 18 hours. Obviously, I saw the entire city because, no, I mean, I saw like literally like 3 blocks of the city. I didn't see much. I saw my hotel room and like the street right outside my hotel room. But I mean, I think it's like really a huge city, like bigger than New York City. I don't know. I don't have Cougs's Wikipedia page in front of me for Mexico City, but yeah, I believe it's super big. So super big. Very very smart words I use. Yeah, I mean it was fun. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. I'm sure MLB will be the last of the 3 sports to get down there. The way Rob Manfred, works things, I wouldn't be surprised if like MLB is like the last of the 3 because, anyway, well, we know. we know.
Yeah. We know. Yeah, so Mexico, but just for everybody listening, just so they don't have to go look it up, Mexico City is bigger than New York City. 12.3 million people versus the 8.8 in New York City. So I mean, we're talking millions of people more. That's crazy. I guess it is probably a lot bigger in landmass as well. So kind of makes sense to that extent. But yeah, I mean, we have America's game, and the 2 most obvious places to extend is Montreal and Mexico City. So
I
yeah,
mean,
that's where we're
Mexico
at.
City, honestly, I feel like Mexico City is the most obvious by like leaps and bounds
Yeah,
because we
biggest city
know,
in North America. Why
yeah,
not?
it's the biggest city in North America, and also like we know how much like Latin players and like they're like huge down there. Like it's like they like the Latin players and just the whole vibe. It's like
Yeah,
they love it. Like I feel like guys like Juan Soto would go down there at like a discount. Like imagine like the players having the opportunity to play in Mexico City like 81 games a year. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a total no-brainer. But anyway,
yeah.
that
I mean,
was
we all saw the enthusiasm at the WBC, and it wasn't the Americans bringing it. Let's just leave it at that for now. But it's May 1st, Gray, as we're recording this. Are you starting to look at standings? Is it starting to creep in that you need to address certain things, or are you still like, I like my roster, like let's give it time. We'll fill in obviously injuries and people who are just not playing, but where are you at?
I think was it the season started on a Thursday. I believe I looked at standings that Friday. I look at standings literally like the day the games begin on opening day. I'm looking to see what the standings
Screenshot
are.
first place because you have the first guy who got a hit real
Yeah,
quick.
man. Screenshot that, baby. You know what I'm saying? I screenshot those team standings. Yeah, I definitely. I looked at our Donkey and me are we're sharing a main event team, as I've mentioned before on previous podcasts. But anyway, I just looked at the standings there to see like what to do with Ohtani, because like Ohtani's got one start this week, I believe, in St. Louis, assuming there's no rainouts or anything, and then he's I think to start next week. That's, assuming again, no rainouts. But, I was looking at that, and then I was looking at our standings, and we're like falling behind in runs. And we've been using Ohtani as a pitcher for like the last 3 weeks. And I'm like, I said to Donkey, I was like, I think it's time we move Ohtani in as a hitter, because, we're starting to fall behind in hitting, and we need, and we just got Gavin Stone, guys who we're actually going to talk about on today's podcast. But yeah, so, for that example, I did look at the standings, and I was like, we're falling behind in runs, and we could use some steals, and, it wouldn't hurt to have a couple homers. If Ohtani can, have a good week as a hitter, then yeah, I think we're probably smart to be playing Ohtani as a hitter. So I looked at the standings for that information. And then, in labor, I was looking at the standings to see where I was with like, for pitching, for like Ks. I felt like I was, I think I have 9 points out of 12 in Ks. So I was like, because I was debating between starting a closer versus a starter. So yeah, I am actually looking at the standings to see where I'm sitting, for certain categories more than overall. I mean, like in Tout Wars right now, I'm in first place. Hello. But, that's, take it or leave it. Like where you are in the overall standings doesn't really, it's not really a big thing right now. It's just a matter of looking at like category standings and seeing like if you need runs, you might want to consider like if you're looking at two different pickups, and one guy is hitting like fifth or sixth in a lineup, and another guy is hitting first or second, and you need runs, it's like that's the kind of thing I would be looking at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, also like, do you need home runs versus stolen bases? Are you sitting last in home runs and you're leading stolen bases by
Actually,
15?
I was talking
like,
to, I was DMing with Jeff Zimmerman from Fangraphs just this morning, like literally like an hour ago. I was DMing with him, and he was like, because he was asking me, because we both are in NL only. He's an NL only labor, and I'm an NL only tout. So we were discussing like what to do for like, we had to do a waiver wire pickup. So like we were discussing that. And then he was talking about, like he was saying to me, like, where was I sitting with strikeouts in my labor league? Like how many did I have? Because it's like that sort of thing, like, and he was saying where he was, because that sort of thing, like with strikeouts and counting stats, like runs, strikeouts, steals, homers, like those sort of categories, you can fall far behind. Like you need to keep pace, because like, like Jeff and I, we were talking on the DM, and he was saying like, like there's this team in, is like 70 Ks behind already. And it's like at, like by the All-Star break, that team is going to be like 300 Ks behind. Like you have to like course correct, like quickly in like counting stats, especially, with ratios. It's harder because, you need to have, like, you need to throw guys in order to lower your ERA or whip. Like it's not as easy, but or batting average, and like obviously. So yeah, it's just like you have to stay on top of things. Like right now, like you have to be looking in the future as to like where you're going to be like in 2 or 3 weeks, because if you fall too far behind, you're going to get left in the dust. Like you need to stay at least in the middle of the pack with some counting stats.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a couple of leagues where I went and looked at the standings this morning as I was setting my lineups, and saw areas of concern where, like you mentioned, like Ks is one, runs and RBIs. These are areas you can get behind. Ratios, you can definitely put in, an average guy versus, somebody that's more speed or power for you. You can kind of make those adjustments, but to some extent, like week to week, average is so fickle. You're kind of just counting on that to balance out. if you drafted your team well and you got the right players in there. But it's some of those other ones where it's the counting numbers that it can be real hard if you get behind like 100 strikeouts. That can be start to look daunting at some point.
Yeah.
All right, so Jordan Walker, he gets sent down. What's Bud Black doing to our boy in St. Louis? And then I guess, is there anybody that you think is getting the bump here?
No, I mean, I've you're luckily you didn't catch me the day that this happened, because I would have been screaming right now. I've clearly Mexico City has cleared my brain, and I'm I'm more at peace with myself. I took a nice a bath in Mexico City, and I have calmed my nerves, because like if you would have caught me on the day that Jordan Walker was sent down, man, I was angry. I was really mad, bro. Yeah, I mean, he's like Jordan Walker. I'm starting to feel my heat rise.
It's starting to come back real quick.
I mean, he was like the fifth best hitter. Like, I would say he's probably the fifth best hitter in that Cardinals lineup. Like, he was not. I mean, he wasn't even struggling. Like, it was literally. And I mean, I understand with the Cardinals, because they wanted to get him every day at bats, and they also have like. I honestly, I don't know why they're playing Burleson and Carlson, and I mean, there's room. Walker should be playing over those two.
He's their best, he's their best outfielder, at least bats wise.
Bat wise, yeah. I mean, Tyler O'Neill looks like he needs a change of venue, yeah. I mean, it's just a mess, man. It's just a mess. I don't know. Honestly, but to your question, who gets a bump there? I don't know. I mean, I guess they all sort of get a bump, maybe Burleson, but outside of NL only and maybe a deeper mixed league, maybe I would look at them, but it'd probably have to be an everyday. It would have to probably be a daily league, because even in a weekly league, I still think he's going to get benched on occasion, so he's not like everyday a starter. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, this is super. I was so nice and calm, and now you're trying to get me all worked up again, man.
All right, let's go to
why would you bring up Jordan Walker? Like, why would you even mention him?
Let's move on to a topic that I think will calm you down a little bit, because I don't think either of us have any shares of him. LuBob, speaking of a guy who was playing every day, maybe not so anymore. He was first inning, he grounds out. Not even, grounds out is that's what happened, but he hits a ball. He is jogging, and jogging is like a loose term here to first base. He gets benched immediately. Like, they gets pulled off. Adam Hazley gets put in. Adam Hazley then leads off the next game. Is there a bigger joke in the game right now than the White Sox? Like, what is going on?
I think Adam Hazley actually went 4 for 5 too.
Yeah, he had a great game.
That would be the true hilarious thing. Would be like Adam Hazley suddenly became the center fielder there.
330 hitter.
Yeah. And Louis Robert was like, he became a platoon guy. Man, the White Sox are so hilarious, because does any team have higher expectations going into the season the last 4 years, and it's no, they're just so bad. Just completely disappointing every year. They find ways to be awful. I don't know. For a while, I thought they should just hire a strength and conditioning coach. So their, propensity for these really terrible, day-to-day hamstring and quad and, oblique and, you name it, man. The White Sox players have found a way to be injured by it. And then Eloy, and Louis Robert, I mean, they've actually stayed on the field more or less. I mean, Eloy had that one IL stint, but only one IL stint per month is pretty good for Eloy. Let's be honest.
It wasn't the whole month.
Yeah, it wasn't the whole month. It was only 10 days. I mean, that's pretty good for Eloy. And Louis Robert, I mean, I believe, like, at worst, he's only had, like, a day-to-day thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I saw the Louis Robert thing where he was, like, obviously jogging to first. And my first thought was, like, I mean, at least he's still healthy, right? I mean, that was my first thought was like, well, his hamstrings have caused him issues in the past, so I mean, I guess he's going tenderly for a reason. So like I feel like having an 85% Louis Robert because like I know you love to talk about how like Bo Bichette hasn't stolen any bases. That's your favorite claim. That's your claim to fame, man. You hate.
I'm sorry that I saw it coming. It was obvious. It was so obvious.
That's fine. No, and I hear that. But like, if you think about like, I'd love to have steals from like Louis Robert, and I love to have him like run. Even as you mentioned, I actually don't roster Louis Robert. I called him a schmohawk in the preseason. I said he was overrated. I would not have drafted Louis Robert where he was going. Like his draft price was ridiculous for what he's done so far in his career. Anyway, but with steals and like running out like grounders to like the third baseman or pitcher, whoever fielded the Louis Robert one was like, I mean, to keep him on the field, I think is more important than, him, running at 110%. So, I mean, I'm kind of like, I know like that's the anti take. I feel like most people are like dogging Louis Robert for dogging it, but I'm kind of in the camp of like, keep him healthy. I don't really care if he runs to first. And like, it goes to the Bichette thing or anyone who hasn't steal. Like, Ohtani stole, I think 3 bags last week. So, that's good. But for like the first 3 weeks, he didn't steal. And I was like, if he didn't steal, it wasn't really like a terrible thing because like, I want him doing other things. So it's like, I feel like that across the board. Like if Eloy isn't running out like grounders, who cares, man? It's like, I don't care. Like I get it from like a real baseball standpoint, like the White Sox, like, losing 9 games in a row and then having Louis Robert, like, dog it to first and then they lost their 10th straight. And like, I get like why a real baseball fan would be annoyed, but from a fantasy standpoint, like I don't roster Louis Robert and I didn't want to draft him this year, but I also feel like if he's dogging at the first, I don't really care. I don't care, man. Honestly, I can't get worked up about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say when we went through the show, I think we both talked about, not expecting speed from Louis Robert either. It's like he went from one of the fastest players in the league to like just crawling at this point.
But
And
that's
it's
like
not getting
how
better.
that's like what I always say with Mike Machado. Like his sprint speed is like goofy, terrible. And it's like, but then he can steal bases. So obviously he's dogging it to first. And then when he wants to steal, he steals. So that shows like a lack of hustle, right? I mean, that's a lack of hustle on Machado's part. But on the other hand, you kind of want him to stay healthy. So if it helps him stay healthy, not running 110% to first base, I kind of don't care. I don't. It doesn't bother me from a fantasy standpoint. As long as he stays on the field, and now I'm talking about Louis Robert again. Like as long as he stays healthy, then I'll take like the occasional like jogging to first. Like so what? He's not David Eckstein. Who cares? I don't care. I don't need Brandon Nemo running to first on a walk. Who cares? It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I guess the point where it bothers me is that if he starts losing the playing time because of it, because who knows what's going on in the White Sox head at any given moment. Like that could start to be a problem. And I just don't like he has completely lost the give up. Like he does not. He is just there. Like maybe he still concentrates on hitting because he knows that's eventually what's going to get him paid when he finally gets out of the White Sox organization. But like he just does not care at all. And again, like it wasn't jogging. It wasn't like, oh, he's taking it easy. He was walking. He was walking to first base. Like I don't really want to run the bases. Just get me out already. So that's where I see some concern. Again, I don't think either of us were drafting him because people were factoring in some huge breakout with the steals and everything, and just drafting him above where we were. But I mean, if you can get draft day value for Louis Robert, I'm 100% happy to do that. Even if you get draft day value of where Gray and I had him ranked, like I'm fine with that. I'm getting off the Louis Robert train right now.
Yeah, that's that's the trouble with not running. I think, the thing that people say when you don't run the first is then is your head in the game, and then that becomes a whole nother issue. So that's and I agree with you 100% that if Louis Roberts' head's not in the game, then you have other issues, and you suddenly have a guy who's disinterested and playing everything at 70%, and that's not good either.
No, it's really not. I mean, he started the season kind of on a tear. I mean, he opened up hitting like 350, and since then he's just gone ice cold. I mean, he's hitting 091 since mid April. Like that's he shouldn't be in your lineup right now until he turns it around and they say they're beyond this disciplinary pinch hitting thing that they're doing with him. Moving on, let's talk about something very positive. Almost very positive. Shohei Ohtani, and I'm just bringing it up because it was an amazing thing to see. He was a home run and a warning track out home run away from completing a natural cycle with a pitching win, Gray. Again, there's nothing to say here. Shohei Ohtani is amazing. I had to bring it up because it was just an amazing feat in baseball.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Natural cycle
he's not
with
actually,
a win.
He's not real, man. He's not. He was made somewhere. He's not real.
Yeah,
it's like those videos sometimes you see of Boston Robotics where it's oh yeah, that robot dog is going to take over the world one day. That's Ohtani's he was made by Boston Robotics or something. I mean, it's incredible. I honestly, I feel like we have, I mentioned earlier in the show, we have him in our main event league, and I have every week it's do we start him as a pitcher or a hitter? And we know we're gonna get a top 10 hitter or pitcher each. You can't go wrong. It's not well, we need hitting, so we're going to start this guy who is kind of okay versus this really good pitcher, or we're starting this kind of okay pitcher versus this really good hitter. It's no, he's excellent at both. It's what do you want? Do you want a top 10 hitter or do you want a top 10 pitcher? You choose. It's really a cheat code. I get why people draft him now. I didn't have him before, so now I totally understand it. He is absolutely a cheat code.
Yeah, there's a reason I had him number one overall in a daily league. You have to. How do you pass it up in a daily league? It's absolutely absurd. Let's move on to some guys that are called up. Gavin Stone. He gets brought up. He's a primary fastball change. He does have a slider across 3 levels last year. Gray, he had a 1.48 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP, a 12.5 K per 9, a 3.3 walk per 9, and over 121 innings. I mean, Gavin Stone has done everything that you need to see from a numbers standpoint in the minors. Is this? This is a must add in all leagues, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I I mean, personally, I'm pretty happy because we have him in that main event league. I also drafted Gavin Stone everywhere. Like I have him in my Tout Wars team, the team that's in first place. I have him in Tout Wars team. I got him in Labor. I got him in a 15 team mix. I have him in a 12 team mix. I have Gavin Stone everywhere, man. I'm so in on Gavin Stone. I've been in on him since March though. Like I drafted him in a bunch of places and have held on to him for for the month of the season so far, just waiting for him to get called up. Some people are saying like, where is he going to be in the rotation? I don't think I think it should be, but I don't think that's happening. I honestly, unless he's like totally he's bad right now, he needs to get worse to get bumped from the rotation. I really don't think he's getting bumped. But with that said, I think the Dodgers will just go. Like I don't think anyone expects them to call up Gavin Stone and then send him right down. Like that makes no sense to me. So I'm guessing they're going to go to a 6-man for a little while, potentially. Maybe, maybe there's something, maybe there's an injury that we don't know about currently. I don't know on that. I'm just, just a guess. My number one, my gut feeling, and my number one thing, my takeaway is like, I'm guessing they go to a 6-man because I really don't think they're bringing up Stone just for one start. So, hopefully they're not. But yeah, I'm in on him in every league. I would pick him up in every league to see what he looks like. He could be like a number 2 to 3 starter this year potentially. Like if he stays up in the rotation and he's able to command his pitches. His command has been a little wonky, and that's like the number one drawback. So hopefully he's got command of everything, and like if he does, yeah, I mean, if he's commanding his changeup, he's going to be unhittable.
Yeah, I mean he has to be picked up. I do think you're right. Like probably a 6-man rotation, and eventually you got to think if Syndergaard doesn't turn around, he's got to be on his way to the bullpen, or maybe they just outright him. I mean, I'd imagine they give him a run in the bullpen just to see if he can do it there. But I mean, he doesn't fit the rest of this rotation the way that it currently looks. Another call up, Brandon Pfaadt. Well, he should be on his way up. I don't know if he's officially been called up, but they've said he's coming up. 4 solid offerings, fastball, slider, curve, and change. Double A and Triple A last year, he had 167 innings, 3.83 ERA, 1.16 WHIP, 11.7 K per nine, 1.8 walk per nine. This is a guy that I drafted all over the place in the drafts in the early season because it sounded like he was going to get a shot in the rotation. He's going to get his shot, Gray. Is this another must pick up in every league, or is this, are you moving it slightly down from where we were on Gavin Stone? Where are you at on Brandon Pfaadt?
No, I mean, I would say more than likely it's probably a coin flip, whether or not like Pfaadt's looked better in the minors. I mean, he's like, Bats looked better in the minors. It sounds like we're talking about childhood obesity. Bats looked a little bit better. Like his command has been better. His command in general is better than Stone. So I think Pfaadt could be better than Stone. But on the other hand, and now we're talking Pfaadt or Stone. It sounds like we're weighing people in Britain. He's 30 stone. Actually, I don't know. I don't know what the translation is. I think 30 stone might be like 2 tons. Anyway, Pfaadt is great. I mean, it's just a matter of who's in the rotation and who's starting. I think Pfaadt potentially could have a better chance of staying in the rotation because, like we mentioned, the Dodgers have already 5 guys. So, but I like both of them. I think it's probably a coin flip on which one's better right now. I would probably lean Stone, but I could see Pfaadt easily being better.
Yeah, I think I lean Pfaadt just because, again, in the pretty assured rotation spot, I mean, there's not really somebody that they need to get into the Arizona rotation. they're kind of running a crappy 4-man outside of Gallen right now. Merrill Kelly has been not great either. So I mean, you're kind of looking at a situation where if he pitches well, there's no reason that he gets sent down. So I'm with you in regards to
That's the
kind of
same too, really. Honestly, that
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same for both of them. If
Yeah, I would
they
agree.
like, if Stone or Pfaadt throws like 7 innings of like, under like 3 earned or under like a quality start, there's no way they're sending them down. Like, why would they send that down?
Yeah. I mean, we go back old school 90s. They're both pretty PHAT gray, the old school fat.
Right, exactly.
All right. I mentioned Zac Gallen briefly. I mean, he's been absolutely just destroying it this year. Let's talk about him just real quick among starting pitchers. Where is he moving himself up to? Top 10? 5? Is he the top pitcher rest of the season? Where do you have Gallen rest of season, Gray?
Well, right now he is the actually, oh wow, I didn't realize. So Clayton Kershaw, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the player rater.
Yeah.
So it's Garrett Cole, Kershaw, and then Gallen. But that is, that's just a matter, like, there so few innings have been thrown that's just a matter of like who threw last. Like Kershaw, like if Gallen throws, again, he's going to move up to number 1, and then Cole moved to 2, and Kershaw, it's just a matter of innings at this point for that. Anyway, with that said, Gallen looks the best out of all 3 of those guys, at least those 3. Like right now, I mean, I was saying on, I wrote the other day on Razzball that like I feel like Spencer Strider is the best pitcher in baseball right now. Like, pound for pound, inning for inning, pitch for pitch, Strider's number 1. Ohtani's probably number 2, like pitch for pitch. This is like, Ohtani may not be able to throw as many innings. So, in the big picture, pun noted, not intended, unavoidable. I would say Ohtani's probably not going to be number 2 because his innings won't be as high. But, pitch for pitch, inning for inning, I would say probably Strider, Ohtani. And then like Gallen's, I mean, Gallen's up there, right? Like Gallen right now, he's got a 12.2 K per 9, a 1.2 walk per 9. He has a 2.25 xFIP. Like Gallen looks like, honestly, there's very few guys who look at his Gallen, and when you consider the amount of innings he's going to be able to pitch. Like Gallen, if I were able to put like a bet, like Gallen could win the Cy Young right now. Like he looks that good. Like he looks like he could have one of those years where it would not shock me to see Gallen go in the top 25 next year in drafts. Like he looks like he could be a top 3 to 5 pitcher easily, if not a top 1 or 2. Like he looks so good.
Yeah, I mean, right now it'd be like Cole. You already said Strider, Ohtani as a pitcher per inning, but like as again per like if you look at it full season, Zac Gallen's just gonna have so many more innings, and then like maybe like Shane McClanahan belongs in that discussion, maybe Gosman as well, and then like that's your top 5. I don't know who else kind of fits in that conversation for the innings and everything they're going to give you, but he's in that elite tier right now for sure, and I expect him to stay there. I mean, he's looked good for like 3 years now. We're not talking about the old Zac Gallen that would just get beat up consistently. This is a different guy. So fully buying if anybody thinks he's old Zac Gallen for some stupid reason. Brandon Drury, he had just a ridiculous series against the A's, set the Angels record for RBIs in a series with 12. He had 4 home runs, 7 runs. He had 600. Are you buying a Brandon Drury, kind of what he did last year in the first half, or was this like just a hot series and we kind of expect him to go back to potato?
Yeah, no, he looks terrible under the hood. He looks I mean, he doesn't look great. Like if you look at his peripherals, he had a hot couple games. I don't buy into Brandon Drury at all. I mean, his walks are down, his Ks are through the roof. I mean, he's over 31% on his strikeout rate, and strikeout rates, that stuff kind of normalizes pretty quickly. I mean, he's awful. I mean, he had a good, like, Anaheim is, it's changed in recent years. It's become more of a hitter's park. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to be, I mean, he may not be awful for power, but he's going to be like, at best, he's like a 30 homer, 220 hitter. At worst, he's like a 25 homer, 205 hitter. Like he doesn't look good at all.
No, he doesn't. And after that series with Oakland, they went to Milwaukee. He had 1 hit in 3 games. Up until the Oakland series, he was hitting 179, 208, 269 with a home run and 1 caught stolen. So, yeah, I mean, you could pick him up and see if there's the magic happens to come back. But as you mentioned, like every number to this point in the season is pretty much saying last year was random and a Cincinnati ballpark magic. Like that's what it was. Brent Rooker, sorry. Is he breaking out? Is it the Brookeout? Or is it happening, Gray?
The Brookeout. I like that. There you go. You got the title for this week's episode. I actually think if you look at his Statcast, I know it's a little goofy to look at the sliders and just be like, ooh, red. But I mean, the Brookeout looks real. I mean, it does. Like you look at his numbers and you're like, I don't know like what changes he made in this off season because I just learned about him like in the last 2 weeks. Like he was, I mean, he was not a good hitter for a long time. He looked like a quad A player at best. I think, some people, someone on the, someone in the comments on Razzball said like a comp to what Christian Walker did last year. And that sounds like a reasonable comp. I'll also throw out there that he could potentially be like a 3 to 4 month Joey Menez from last year. Like, these guys sometimes come up and they do really well for like a couple months, and then pitchers finally are like, oh, I have to pay attention to this guy, and not always, because like in the A's lineup, you really don't have to pay attention to anyone. So he could get pitches to hit because it's like, oh no, not Jesus Aguilar. It's like the A's lineup doesn't get better after Rooker. So like there's a potential here where he could be a full season Brookeout.
Yeah, I mean everything looks good, as you mentioned. Like you go to Baseball Savant, it's like red all the way across the board except for whiff rate, which whatever, and spread speed, which we didn't, you don't really expect anyways. And well, again, it is early, like you said. It's a hell of a lot better than looking at Louis Roberts' chart and being like, it's all blue except for max exit velocity. That's not great. So, I mean, it's still nice to see. The launch angle.
It was actually insanely blue. Like it's like the Jack Frost, the movie with Michael Keaton, but as a Statcast page, Nolan Arenado. Woo, baby, his Statcast page looked terrible. Oh my God, Arenado looks awful. Anyway, go ahead, continue what you're saying.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's the Cardinals just sliding down. Like they've been just slowly becoming the White Sox somehow, and that's where they're heading. So maybe Arenado's finally hitting the wall. I don't know. In regards to Rooker, like as you mentioned, the Ks are down, walks are up, launch angle's up 5 degrees. So maybe it's just a combination of getting all that sorted out. I mean, he never really got a long look in the majors. He's been up for like spots here and there. So just getting comfortable, having a job all that kind of factors into it. We'll see if it continues. I don't necessarily think he's a 353 9 home run hitter. Even he said, I didn't think I was even capable of a month like this. So I don't ever expect another month like this necessarily.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said, like, I didn't even think I was capable of doing what I did this month.
That's pretty funny. I didn't hear that. That's funny though.
I'm not rooting for him. I really hope it continues and he continues to be a good hitter. And for now, you're picking him up and using him until we see otherwise. Now, speaking of guys we're picking up, would you dare, Gray, trust Jose Berrios or Vincent Velasquez again? And really, I'm talking about Berrios.
No.
I'm talking about trust.
No.
I mean,
I think Jose Berrios, I would absolutely not trust. But with that said, I mean, he's got strikeouts and he's not walking anyone. He looks like he fixed whatever that was last year. Like, his velocity looks fine. Like, he's throwing around averaging 94 miles per hour his fastball, which is about where he usually is. His strikeouts are back up. His walks are down, like I said. His xFIP's 330. I mean, he could be a mid 3 to 3.75 ERA guy, which is fine. I mean, that's rosterable in all leagues. Am I trusting him? No, absolutely not. No, are you kidding me? I have what? I have my Jewish stomach has IBS. I have enough stress in my life. No. Please. I have Brady Singer on teams. I'm not trusting Jose Berrios. I have Lance Lynn. I mean, I need more stress. Get out of here.
Completely agree. I'm not necessarily I'm not trusting him. If you want to pick him up, fine. You can pick him up and see. I'm not starting him. I need another month, honestly. I need to see what's going on, because right now the only thing I can really see is there's some horizontal break that's back to the fastball. The fastball and the change were both just pieces of crap last year. So, I mean, at least the fastball is back to being useful and not a complete negative. But I need to see a little bit more. Plus, he got lit up his first 2 starts of the season. So there's still that fear of that potential coming back as well. With Velasquez, the velocity is up slightly, like a half a mile per hour on average. He's ditched the curve. He's throwing the slider over 40%. Can I interest you in some Vince Velasquez?
No. Honestly, Berrios's numbers look better to me than Velasquez. But if I was going to stream someone, everything's better on the Pirates now. The Pirates can do no wrong. So, I would probably stream Velasquez, but I wouldn't trust him. I mean, trust and stream are 2 separate things in my mind, and yeah, I wouldn't trust them, but I would stream them. Yeah, I wouldn't even stream Berrios. Oh, you messed me up last year, man. I'm not even messing with you. Not messing with you, man.
I just can't do it again. Just too much pain last year. I mean, I feel like everybody at Razzball, nobody at this site is ever going to roster Jose Berrios again. It's just never ever gonna happen. It's just so scary. All right, you mentioned him when we were talking about not trusting and all the pain and stress we're already dealing with. Lance Lynn and Chris Bassitt. People thought, Lance Lynn is going to be. He finished off last season fine. He's back. He's gonna be good. Chris Bassitt. I mean, he's always been good for ERA. The strikeouts aren't going to be there, but he's been fine. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to throw Michael Kopech into this group too, because he's been just absolutely dreadful, just blowing up specific innings. Just he has an inning game that just is the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. Like, where are you at on these three? Are you cutting these three players?
Thank you for sparing me having to tell you about Brady Singer.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that either, Gray. Let's not talk about Brady Singer. Let's just agree to that.
I have so
many.
many.
Agree to that one.
I have so much pain with these guys. Yeah, Lance Lynn, I benched this week, so expect a good start from him. I probably wouldn't drop Lance Lynn if I could avoid it. In a 10-team mixed league, you got to move on. But in like a 12-team mixed league or deeper, I'd probably bench him until like he throws a starter or two. That's like, he did take a no-hitter into the 7th in his last game. So that was promising, but then it was just like, that went sideways so fast. They couldn't even get someone warmed up to like take him out. Speaking of not hustling, hey, why doesn't the White Sox manager hustle out to the mound and like stop Lynn from giving up all these runs? And then Kopech, I think, is just a mess. I don't know if Kopech, like his command is just so bad. Like right now, his walk per 9 is 5.6. You can't start that in any leagues. Like that's unstartable. I don't care, even if it's a good matchup. Like I wouldn't start him against like the A's or the Nationals right now. No way. And then Bassitt, he looks kind of broken. This is a mess. Like Bassitt's velocity was down a lot. I believe that's come up a little bit in recent starts, but his Ks are so far down. Like, I get the impulse to like, you drafted him pretty high, you want to hold, but you also don't want to tank your entire you don't want to tank your team just trying to make your draft like make sense, if you messed up in the draft, you messed up. Like there's guys to pick up in a lot of, especially in shallower mixed leagues, which is, most of our listeners, like, people who are in deeper leagues, you got to do what you got to do. Like maybe you bench Bassitt until you see a good start or two. But in like shallower leagues, like I've told people in the comments to drop Bassitt, like, I wouldn't even look back. Like in shallower leagues, like in a 12-team mixed league, there's so many guys to pick up. I would drop like Bassitt and not even look back. I'd be like, you know what? It just didn't happen. Whatever happens, happens. And I'd look elsewhere because there's a lot of guys like in a 12-team mixed league, I picked up Drew Smiley for his like 2-start week. I think he gets the Nationals and the Marlins. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work, but versus like trying to make Bassitt work, forget it. Like, just let it go.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'm sitting all these guys on the bench, regardless of the size of the league. Like even in an only league, I'm sitting in the like I have Kopech in an only league. I have Lynn in an only league. They're not starting. I can't put them out there right now with what they're looking at. And
they're single-handedly like tanking like my ERA in leagues. Like Lance Lynn has a ERA of 7.16. That's you put that on any, like I have like 5 good starters and then Lance Lynn, my whole team's tanked.
Yeah.
He is like he looks and he acts like an anchor in every way, man.
I saw somebody somebody on like MLB Network or somebody blame Lynn's weight. They're like he can't sustain the velocity and like you watch.
He's always been big,
but that was before the pitch clock. That's before like he would take like minutes in between like batters and just like walk around and do nothing. Now he's got like be on it and throwing. And then like I also saw the guy had to apologize for saying it was because of his weight. Like Lynn got pissed off. Whatever, like lose some damn weight then, Lynn, or keep your velocity up. One of the two. Like stop it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. I have, I wouldn't be shocked if like, having to throw like, well, you just said it. I don't need to reiterate what you just said. But yeah, the pitch clock, boat, right? Needing to throw like, consistently every like 15 seconds could potentially, have side effects on guys who are out of shape or just not used to it. Who knows?
Yeah, yep. And Bassitt and Lynn are both below the magical 93. Like at 93 and above, you can kind of get away with some things on fastballs. Below 93, MLB hitters are just going to crush the crap out of it if it's not where it's supposed to be or if it's not moving. And
And
neither of them are doing
also,
that.
yeah, and also like I don't know, I don't have in front of me like where he's pitched so far this year, but if like the weather isn't been good, actually, I don't know if that's the case, but it just may take Lance Lynn getting into warmer weather. That might help. Who knows? But right now, you can't start him. I mean, that's he's awful.
Yeah,
He's terrible.
they're both awful. I will say they both started last year awful as well, then turned it around. But like it was June or July by the time they turned around. They'd already tanked your team if you held on to them and started them that long.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, let's move on to something a little bit more exciting, but also kind of depressing for me because he's still not up. Matt Mervis, I mean, he's killing AAA. He's hitting 295, 407, 580. He's got a sub 16% K rate, a sub 16% walk rate. They're actually both saying 15.7. He's got 6 home runs, 27 ribbies, 27 runs. The
This is
Cubs, like,
also, I don't know, like, sorry, not to interrupt, but like with Matt Mervis, like, why did they even get Hosmer or Mancini? Like, what? Like, he was ready in March, and he's 25 years old. This isn't like trying to, like manipulate like service time on a 21-year-old. He's old. Like, what are they doing? I don't get this at all, man. I feel like though, like he may be up any moment. Like I feel like like last week, I think we said something like what was Bibby? I think it was like Bibby could be called up at any moment, and then he was called up like I think the day after the podcast dropped or something. Like Mervis, I think the same thing. Like by the time people are listening to this, Mervis could be already up. So I don't want to belabor this, but he should have started the year with the Cubs.
yeah, it pains me to watch it. And unfortunately, like Hosmer and Mancini are hitting like just just good enough to keep him to keep the Cubs be like, look, we signed them. This is what we thought they might do is get back to what they had done before their career and blah blah blah. Like they're getting just enough production from the corner infield spot that like the cries for Mervis have calmed down a little bit from like some fans that aren't they're just looking at it at face value. But again, like you said, he's not a young kid. Like let's get him
No,
up.
he's not young. He's 25 years old. Speaking of guys who aren't young, who are in the minors killing it, Christopher Morel has got 11 homers and 4 steals, and he's hitting 363. He's 24 years old. Like what? Like what are the Cubs doing? Like, and Morel's already been in the majors. They've already started his clock. He's already played in the majors. Like, how is Christopher Morel in the minors? Like, I don't get like what they're doing. Like, I understand they're not actually trying to win. Like that, that's loud and
very
that's
clear.
loud and clear. But not trying to win, and also having guys in the minors, like not trying to win goes hand in hand with, start your prospects and see what you have. Like, why are they in the minors? Like, there's no reason they should be in the minors. It literally makes no sense. Like, honestly, they should start firing people in that organization.
Oh, we have gone from bad owner to another bad owner. Our current owner at least gave us a World Series and then just got cheap, like got so cheap at he's like, I did what I said. Now I'm just gonna make money. You guys can screw off. And that's where the Cubs are at this moment. It's very frustrating as a Cubs fan. All right, let's move on to some injuries here, Gray. Jacob deGrom, who could have seen this? He has elbow inflammation.
Wait a second. DeGrom is injured? What? How? Wait, what? I'm sorry. Jacob deGrom? Are you sure?
No way.
I honestly, I mean, I was like, when DeGrom first got injured, I didn't want to be the guy who, relished in a player's injury. I don't want to be that guy because that guy he's never met with cheers. That guy is only met with booze and people attack that guy, and I don't want to be the guy who gets attacked. But with that said, the moment DeGrom was injured, I really wanted to go back to March and start retweeting people who are like, Jacob DeGrom seems like a first rounder to me. Like, what? Dude, what? I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people out there who are like, Jacob DeGrom was a top 3 starter or should be a top 10 to 15 overall pick. Like, there's a lot of people who are saying stuff like that. I'm not going to be the person who goes back and retweets it, but you can find it pretty easily.
I'm going to say it on the podcast because they're not listening anyway. So, yeah, we're going to tell you it's out there.
It's like, it's not, people aren't hiding the stuff. It's like, you can go back and look at March takes from people, and it's like, yeah, okay. Was Jacob DeGrom a good a good top 10 overall pick? I don't know, man. I'm thinking not, but on the other hand, maybe not on the other hand either. maybe Jacob DeGrom isn't the best, top 10 starter, let alone top 15 overall pick in a fantasy league. This is so obvious too. And then if I were to go back and do that, people would be like, oh yeah, well, now that he's injured, you're pointing it out. Oh, that's easy to do. It's like, I knew he'd be injured. Everyone knew he'd be injured. I'm just doing it now because he's injured now. But obviously, you can go back, and I even I wrote LOL on a couple of people's tweets who were like, yeah, Jacob DeGrom is like a top first or second rounder. Like, okay, sure. LOL, man. You got it. Whatever you say, bro. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And these people, honestly, there's no consequences to anyone's terrible takes. It's like, oh yeah, okay. In March, it's like, oh, here's some engagement for you. And then 3 weeks later, oh, Jacob DeGrom's injured. Oh man, I didn't see that coming. Huh. I wonder how that happened. Huh. That's weird. So ridiculous. Anyway, continue.
Yes, if they had listened to us and drafted Clayton Kershaw 90 picks later, they'd be a whole lot happier right now. Regardless, Gray, let's get off of our soapbox. Dane Dunning is named the replacement. Dunning's actually been pretty good, at least ratio-wise, in long relief. 15 team and more. Is that pretty much the only place you're looking at Dunning?
Yeah, because I don't think he's stretched out yet enough. I drafted him in a draft champions league, so I'm going to start him this week because I had I think Lance Lynn, so I don't want to start Lance Lynn anymore. So Dane Dunning's fine in a 15 team mixed and deeper, but he's probably not stretched out enough. So it's you can grab him and see how he looks.
And still matchup based. I'm still not throwing him against good teams either.
Right.
We're still talking about a 15 team option, but it's a streaming option, and I'm not starting Lance Lynn and Chris Bassitt and Michael Kopech, but I can't cut them yet either type of position. That's where you're starting Dane Dunning. Robbie Ray, he's going to go on. He's done for the season. Flexor tendon surgery. Too much time focusing on the glutes, man. Not enough arms and upper body work here. Flexen was filling in, but they say they're going to evaluate the rotation now that they know Ray's out. I don't know if there's really anything to do. I don't think there's a pitcher that's coming in to replace Ray that you're interested in, but just tough to see Ray go down.
Yeah, he was. I was avoiding him this year, but that's an unfortunate, unlikely injury. That's the kind of injury where I wouldn't retweet anyone who liked Robbie Ray, because that's an unforeseen thing. No one saw Robbie Ray being injured. He was going to be, he was one of the most likely guys to throw 200 innings this year. So yeah, that's just unfortunate. Easton McGee looked good, but I think he's now got forearm injuries. I don't know what's in the water in Seattle, but watch your forearms there, Luis Castillo.
Yeah, hopefully that's the end of it because I got Castillo and Kirby shares all over the place. So no more injuries in Seattle. Pitching, please. Speaking of injuries kind of piling up all at once, Minnesota has Kenta Maeda go on the IL for at least a few weeks with a tricep strain, and Tyler Mahle, who had actually had a pretty solid bounce back, has an impingement in his elbow, out at least 4 weeks. Good news for this is Bailey Ober, who we talked about last week, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time there. He's now going to get an extended look in the rotation. And then it also seems like, maybe there's another opportunity for somebody else to step in here, Gray.
Yeah, Louis Varland looks like a guy who was a hot pickup in some of my leagues. Yeah, I mean, he looks good. I mean, he does, he's got a good fastball, excellent slider, solid change. He has like I think he could potentially be in the rotation, for, I don't know, I Maeda. Who knows what, with Tyler Mahle and Maeda going down, Tyler Mahle is, it's I'm not sure his timetable. It seems likely he's out for a while though, but I don't know with Tyler Mahle. He's not, he doesn't have a timetable where at least not that I'm aware of, where how long he's going to be out for. Yeah, I mean, I like Bailey Ober a lot. Like we talked about him last week, he's got like, not huge upside. He's like 8.5K per nine, but he has good command, like maybe 2.5 and under on the walk rate. So yeah, I mean, he should be solid for most leagues as like a number 5 or 6. Like he should give you decent ratios. Probably would avoid in most tougher matchups. Where Louis Verland looks like, he could be potentially like, a big upside, like Gavin Stone, Brandon Pfaadt type call up. So, keep your eyes open for him if he's going to be in the rotation or if he's going to start for the Twins. But, I saw him get picked up in most of my leagues. I haven't seen anyone say he's definitely going to be the fill-in for Tyler Mahle. I mean, I think people are just assuming he is. Maybe that was announced. I mean, like I said, I was in Mexico City this weekend, so maybe I missed something.
No, I haven't seen it officially said that he's getting the spot either. I mean, it would make sense since they've already called him up to make one spot start that he comes back up and takes the rotation spot. I will say on Varlin, like it seems like he's added 2 or 3 miles an hour on the fastball this year, which if he's done that makes him a little bit more interesting and puts him in the realm of, spec pickup and put him on your bench until you can see if it's something that kind of sticks and there's some new results here. So I'm interested in both of them. Ober first because his spot seems a lot more steady. Let's move on to some bullpen talk, Gray. Dodgers, Brusdar Graterol and Evan Phillips both got saves this week. Phillips was on the paternity leave along with the rest of the Dodgers players and former Dodgers players last week. So one of the saves that Graterol got was when Phillips was on it, but he also got one after Phillips had returned. Are we looking at a share? Are you still thinking Evan Phillips is the guy? Graterol's kind of got it together after a little bit of a bumpy start to the year.
Yeah, I mean, I like Graterol. I thought he felt like the most likely to be the closer in like February, early March. But then Evan Phillips, like I thought Evan Phillips sort of took the job and ran with it, and I was surprised to see Graterol even get any saves. But then like you said, Phillips was out. Everyone on the Dodgers was out on paternity leave. Yeah, so I think Evan Phillips still has the best like stuff closer wise. Graterol looked most like a closer to me, like just like he fit that role. But yeah, I don't know. I think right now I'd say like this was more clear in my head like 10 days ago. I think Gratterall is probably still behind Phillips. I would say maybe like 80-20 Phillips Gratterall. But that could be moving closer to like 60-40 potentially, but I still think it's Phillips's job.
Yeah, I mean, there was some concern on Phillips because he got 2 saves pretty much right out of the gate, and then he didn't get a save from April 6th until April 30th. There's a big gap there where he just wasn't getting saves. Some of it was the Dodgers didn't have as many save opportunities as we're used to them having. But it does seem like a bit of a shared thing, something to keep an eye on. I would agree Phillips still is in the lead. He hasn't done anything to lose. He was, taking the lead to begin with. But I would say both are somewhat rosterable in most leagues because, again, they're pitching well. So getting a potential for saves and getting good numbers on the side of with it, you could do worse. Moving on
Yeah,
to
and Gratterall too. Sorry, not to interrupt, but real quick, like Gratterall is odd in that he has like 98 to 100 mph stuff, like really nasty stuff, but he only has like a 7K per nine. Like he doesn't really strike out many guys. Gratterall, that is. So that's not really like, I mean, that's not ideal for a closer. But he also doesn't walk anyone. He induces a lot of weak contact. Anyway, I mean, this is like maybe 70-30, maybe 60-40, maybe 80-20. This is, I think, Phillips' job still.
All right. Moving on to New York. Michael King got a save. Are you worried at all about Clay Holmes' security, or was this just kind of a one-off?
Yeah, no, I think Clay Holmes could lose the job. I don't think he has lost the job. I think there's potential there. Like I think potentially the Yankees could have a terrible year, and Holmes could be a part of that. Like he's right now, as we record this, he's sitting at a 3.72 ERA. Now, obviously, ERA is not everything, but his command is awful this year. Like Holmes, if Holmes blows like a game or two, he could be out. Like I don't think they have that much loyalty to Clay Holmes. Like, and Michael King looks great. So, and if the Yankees are struggling as they are, like if they actually have a lead in the ninth and Holmes blows that, that's not going to go. That's not going to go over well, man. Like Clay Holmes could be out of a job like pretty quickly. I think he still has the job though, as of right now, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I would agree that it's still Holmes' job, but I think I would put in a spec pickup for Michael King before I would grab Gratterall, even though Gratterall is currently getting saves, just because King is he's a multi-inning guy, so you're getting a little bit more out of him, even if he doesn't get a save. But the upside, I think, on him is taking the Yankees closer job, whereas the Dodgers feel like they're just going to kind of share it regardless of what's going on with even if like Phillips falls off, it'll be Gratterall and fill in the blank of unanimous Dodgers reliever that's pitching well.
Right.
Rysell's returning and just in time because AJ Minter was just starting to get lit up. So hopefully he can go back to his lefty thing. Nothing really here to say other than AJ Minter was going to lose this job sooner rather than later, anyways.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if anything, if Raciel Iglesias has a setback, I think Nick Anderson probably is going to start seeing saves relatively soon. I don't think Minter is staying in that role very long. If he's even in that role by the time people listen to this,
I would agree.
Yeah, he's bad.
Yeah, I think Nick Anderson might be a play this week, actually. Just this week, because once Rysell returns, it's his job, I would assume. But this week, it would be an interesting play, and he's probably available in a number of leagues. The Cubs closer situation seems to have some clarity now. It seems to be Brad Boxberger. I mean, almost by default, because the rest of the Cubs relievers have been just horrible.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think that Tigers, those ex Tigers, current Tigers or whatever, the Michael Fulmer Matthew Boyd guys of the world, like they made fans from some fantasy baseball people that I don't know, like unwarranted like praise was heaped on the Fulmer Matthew Boyds of the world. That like, I mean, Fulmer I guess has been okay, not awful, not as bad as Boyd at least, but like, yeah, I mean, these guys they're not like Fulmer at least is not a closer. Boyd's not good as a starter, but Fulmer isn't good he's not good as a closer. So yeah, Boxberger I guess is the closer there. It's not a great situation, even if someone's getting full-time saves. Yeah, I don't know. Alizé, some people in the comments on Rasball were talking about Alizé is throwing well, and he does have good. His peripherals look great. I mean, he's got like 11.6 K per nine, 1.9 walk per nine, only 14 innings, but still, I mean, he's got good numbers. Alizé, that is. But yeah, I think it's probably Boxberger's job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's who they want in that role. Again, they're kind of obviously in a tanking position right now, so I think Boxberger or Fulmer was who they wanted, so they can flip them whenever somebody calls on a old crusty reliever, and we'll move them, and then maybe Alzolay gets a shot at that point as they build up his value to move him.
By the way, not to harp on a subject that we didn't even have in our podcast outline, but what Matthew Boyd was never good. Why does anyone ever talk about Matthew Boyd? Like, I don't understand the fascination at all. Like, I'm talking about Matthew Boyd, and I'm like, he's got like 150 games started, and he has a 4.91 ERA. Like, what? He's awful. I'm sorry.
He had a magical 238 strikeouts one season with a 4.56 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP.
Yeah, I mean, again, a 4.56 ERA. Like, not good, man. I'm sorry. I mean, I understand ERA isn't necessarily predictive of what's to come, but on the other hand, ERA is also a category in my fantasy leagues. I'm sorry. His whips haven't been much better. So, yeah, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail us, but yeah, go ahead.
That's fine. Last thing that we're going to talk about anyways is just give the people some names, some pickups they can look at for this week, Ray.
Yeah, okay, so Taylor Walls has been really excellent. He had a good game on Sunday, even though the Rays lost to the White Sox. But through no fault of his. I mean, Taylor Walls has been really good. Also, Nick Senzel has been hot. I mean, by the time people listen to this, he'll probably be injured again. But as of right now, he's been hot. Edward Olivares has been really, since the Royals have played him a few times, and he's been good in those games. Hopefully, knock on wood, they'll keep playing him. And also, the Pirates called up Miguel Andujar. He's been great. He hit a homer, I think, on both sides of the doubleheader on Saturday. He's been, he was hitting third on Sunday. I think he went hitless that game, but he did hit third, which is, that's something. And the Pirates are a 120 win team. So, I'm just saying. And then Jaron Duran, the Red Sox hitter, I mean, his BABIP, I think, is like 750. So I don't think Duran is really going to be a long-term guy for shallower leagues, but he's hitting right now and he's got great speed. So yeah, I mean, he's someone to pick up. And then on the pitching side, I mentioned earlier, Drew Smyly has good 2-start matchup this week. I actually grabbed Drew Smyly in one league in waivers this week. And then Braxton Garrett has been good. Who else? Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know. You got anyone?
No, I mean, I think you named a lot of really good guys, a lot of guys that I had on my radar for this week and picked up in different leagues. I will mention Nick Martinez real quick, just because he's been phenomenal, and I think there's there's a non-zero chance that he either goes in the rotation or like I just think I think there's the opportunity for him to find a spot in the rotation, and then all of a sudden he becomes a lot more interesting. I think you can get him right now as a multiple inning long reliever and also a setup guy and he got a save this week as well. So you're getting like a bunch of options with Nick Martinez. So if you're kind of like in the area where I am, which is like I don't want to start Lance Lynn, please, oh God, anybody but Lance Lynn or Michael Kopech, like putting a Nick Martinez in there, and then again you're kind of banking on a potential spot maybe opening up for him, because you look at the Padres rotation and it's like the average age is 34. Somebody's going to get hurt.
True. Yeah. He was also, I believe he was really good in Saturday in Mexico City. And so was I. I was also in Mexico City on Saturday. And I was
also being good.
I was also being good.
Just so saying. You say. Yeah. So you say.
Just saying.
Is there any corroboration to this Gray was being good concept?
You have to take my word for
it. All right. Well, we'll take your word for it for now until we see any photo evidence to the contrary, Gray. As always, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, throw them in the comment section on Razzball, on YouTube. Go subscribe, rate, review, wherever you listen, watch us. On Twitter, I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is, of course, the owner of the @Razzball account. And until next week, good luck in your matchups. See you, Gray.
All right, Lates.